Race 2 of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship is about to go underway. We have Joe Wiggins on pole position with John Langridge starting second. Ollie Allwood had a failed gearbox in race 1 and has managed to get back out on track and starting in 11th position. Andy, it's over to you to see how he gets through the pack.
Thanks, Mike. Well, as you said, Joe Wiggin on pole position for this race because he won the previous race, the grid based on the result from race number 1. John Langridge therefore alongside with Ben Short and Will Blackwell-Chambers on row 2. Steve Foden and Jack Brewer are next ahead of Matt Pollard and Marcus Bailey. Then Jason Greatrex and Adam Bessel with Ollie Allwood looking to try and recover from that gearbox issue. He's got Martin Tolley alongside on row 6, then Ash Miller and Ben Hansing ahead of Jack Moody and David Waters. At the back of the grid, we have our 5 drivers promoted from the first B race. Michael Nibbs was the winner, so he starts 22nd ahead of Charlie Rawls, Adrian Burge, Alan Hawkins and Ollie Jenkins, all of whom came through from our first B race of the day. So Joe Wiggin looking to try and make this a remarkable 5 wins from 5. He'll have some work to do to achieve that though. Let's see if he can do it though. Off the line they go. John Langridge looking for a better start this time around as well. They launch towards Oulton Park Corner for the first time of asking. One car right up against the wall there. That was very close for Charles Muddlestone, I think that was. And yes, it was the white and red number 96 car in the midfield. Down the inside there of David Waters and Adam Craig through Old Hall Corner. As usual, 1 or 2 run a bit wide out of the first turn, but no one ends up pointing the wrong way. So it is generally speaking a clean start. Ben Short though going for the race lead up the inside of Joe Wiggin into Cascades for the first time, and it looked as though he might just have been able to make that one stick. So Joe Wiggin unfortunately not able to make such a demon start this time. Yet again it looks like it's the man that starts third, in this case Ben Short, that might be getting the best launch. And yes, he will lead them down into Island Bend. John Langridge is up the inside as well now, and Will Blackwell-Chambers trying to follow him through but can't quite do it, so that's crucial. Langridge is A, still ahead of Wiggin, and B, has a car between them still, so Langridge looking to try now to increase his newly acquired championship lead. So it's Short, Langridge, Wiggin, Blackwell-Chambers and Steve Foden, with Adam Bessel in 6th place. Jack Brewer's had a good start as well, into 7th place at the moment, having generally a fairly promising weekend so far is the youngster. Through the Britain chicane, back up the hill, Ben Hansey there with the 54 car behind him. I think that was Marcus Bailey who's dropped down the order slightly. But Ben Short has the race lead then into the Hislop chicane. Ben has not won a race in the championship since Brands Hatch, when he won 2 races. And they were, I think I'm right in saying, his only 2 race victories of the season. He'd been on the podium since then. And as I said, did not race last time out in the championship at Snetterton. Now he is back, and he's back with a vengeance into the race lead then, despite that pretty poor qualifying effort by his standards certainly. Is Jason Greatrex coming through, the number 33 car, through Druids for the first time, over that big hump on the exit of the corner, which really unsettles the cars. Joe Wiggin trying to unsettle John Langridge here and take 2nd place back, and he'll do it, and Will Blackwell-Chambers sees his chance to try and follow him through. This is a really significant battle now between Will Blackwell-Chambers and John Langridge, and Langridge hangs on just about, but that was really the first time all weekend that Will Blackwell-Chambers had an opportunity to get ahead of Langridge and wasn't quite able to capitalise on it. So John Langridge then staying in front. Will Blackwell-Chambers though could not be any closer to him. These two have made contact already this year. Remember, back at Brands Hatch they are making contact once more down the avenue, but this time nothing malicious in it at all. That's just bump drafting down the straight. That's pretty standard practice really in Mark 1 MX-5 racing. Rather than pull out of line and risk being overtaken by the car behind, you simply give the car in front a bit of a love tap and push you both along down the straight a little bit quicker. On board with Adrian Burge now, 3rd place in our first B race of the weekend. So he's been promoted into the A grid for the first time at Oulton Park. And the Adrian Burge car being overtaken by Alan Hawkins, who finished just behind him in the first B race. Hawkins, the 722 car, has the inside for Island Bend, but the outside line for the Shell hairpin. Can Burge hang on the inside? He's going to try to, and he will, I think, be able to do this. Adrian Burge, a bit tight and a bit sideways on the exit of the corner. Hawkins, therefore, carries a bit more speed off the turn. He's got the inside line for the left part of the British chicane, but really it's the right-hander you want to be on the inside for. Not quite sure how that one got sorted out. Back at the front of the field, Joe Wiggin is still trying to get this race lead back then after a slightly disappointing start to the race. There is Steve Foden with Jack Brewer right behind him in this big queue of cars, as we often see in the early stages of these races, and then generally speaking the top 4 or 5 will pull away, but we'll see if that's what happens in this one. Slightly more overcast conditions now as well. I know that we heard drivers saying after race 1 that they didn't expect to see lap times improving at all as the day went on, because it was starting to get rather warm, but actually a bit more overcast now. The track temperature therefore is a bit more manageable, so we should still see some good, quick but close racing. And John Langridge now trying to get up the inside of Joe Wiggin, as Wiggin did to him a lap ago, and he goes into second place. Blackwell Chambers has to try and follow him, and does. He will go into third, and Wiggin, unfortunately, 1 up, 2 down on that lap then. Across the line, short lead, Langridge second, Blackwell Chambers third, then fourth for Wiggin. Can he fight back into Oulton Park corner? No, they will stay single file. Bessel is back ahead of Steve Foden, and behind, that looks like Ollie Allwood on his charge of the order. He's now got ahead of Jack Brewer, so Allwood is very nearly part of this battle now. Ollie, remember, was leading in race 1 when he had that gearbox issue, so he will feel that he should have, as bare minimum, been on the podium. Hoping against hope, though, that we don't get a repeat of that mechanical problem, because he clearly got good speed this weekend, and the top 5 will be the bare minimum requirement from this race, really. Joe Wiggin here fighting back up the inside of Will Blackwell Chambers, and he's going to go ahead. And I think Will might have just lost another place there, because, yes, Adam Bessel's followed Joe through, so because it's, in theory, not that easy to overtake around here. If you see the car in front making an overtake, you have to try and latch onto their rear bumper and go with them. And that's what Bessel did, so Blackwell Chambers now losing ground. Now, Will, coming into this weekend, as I said, you dropped your 3 worst scores, so he's dropping a non-finish from earlier this season at Pembrey, and 2 6th place finishes. So in other words, if he finishes at any point this year lower than 6th, that will become one of his dropped scores. And, well, as we stand now, he's in 5th, but he's got Steve Foden and Ollie Allwood and Jack Brewer, and, well, about half the grid breathing down his neck. So what I'm saying is there is a chance he could lose more places, and that might then start to have an effect on the championship. But right now, this result would stand, but it means that the next, if he were to have another 2 non-finishes, even if he were to retire from a race, he would still score essentially 6th place points, because he then regains those points that he's dropping from earlier on this year. So that's why it's handy to get to the end of the year and not having had that many non-finishes, because you've got those races as backup then, essentially, if you need them. Something that Blackwell Chambers has had to use in the past. John Langridge, though, heads into Lodge Corner, second place at the moment, 2 cars between himself and Blackwell Chambers. And Langridge, therefore, on for 98 points. That would be 6 points more than Blackwell Chambers would score. On ball with Martin Tolley now. So he heads towards Oulton Park corner. Group of cars battling in front of us. It's Jason Greytrex, is it, right in front? You can quite see there are several white and red cars on the grid. I think that is Jason Greytrex that we're chasing. It's either Jason Greytrex or Matt Pollard. Their 2 liveries are fairly identical, it seems, from a distance. This lovely camera angle from Martin Tolley's dashboard, essentially, looking back at Martin wrestling the car through Cascades. These cars move around so much in quite a predictable way, so they're not as difficult to control as they may seem, but it's still a workover getting one of these cars around the track. Steve Foden now has a go at the erstwhile championship leader, Blackwell Chambers. Couldn't go through at Shell, though, but yeah, this train of cars not really showing any signs of separating. There is Jason Greytrex, so it was Jason that was just in front of Martin Tolley, but in fairness, Matt Pollard, I think, is the next car in front, so all the red and white cars getting themselves together, because not far away from them behind is the 54 Marcus Bailey. Joe Wiggin then having another look at the inside of Langridge here into the chicane, and he's committing, is he? Oh, John, just late enough on the brakes. You can sort of do that if you go a bit wide through the first part of his lops. At least you've got the inside for the left-hander. This is what John was having to do when he was racing with Ben Short in the previous race, which allowed Joe Wiggin to pull away in the race lead. Well, now it's a reverse situation. Wiggin is being held up by Langridge, and that's allowing Ben Short to not streak away, but certainly build a slightly more comfortable cushion. Out of Druids, over the hill, whoops, onto the grass there went Matt Luff, I think. No, Ollie Allwood, sorry. Ollie Allwood with a wheel in the dirt. Ollie, though, is now into 7th place, but he's not made any more progress since passing Jack Brewer a few laps ago. There, the white and blue car of Ollie Allwood, who's been there or thereabouts on the year, all year, knocking on the door of podiums and race wins, but yeah, to get that first victory, it did look after qualifying like he might have a chance to do it today, and he still could, but now he's reaching the tougher nuts to crack. These are the harder drivers to get past, because they're some of the quickest and most experienced in the championship. Having said that, Joe Wiggin is a relative rookie to MX-5 racing. Let's not forget, this is only his 6th race meeting ever in an MX-5. already a 4-time race winner though, which is more race victories than anybody else has scored so far this year. Langridge and Wiggin were tied on 3 wins apiece coming into this weekend. Tell a lie, Blackwell Chambers has won 5 races, hasn't he, excuse me, but he hasn't won for what seems like a while, because Joe Wiggins been on the top step of the podium in each one of the last 4 races we've had. Screeching of tyres through the Shell hairpin. On board with John Langridge back to Joe Wiggin there. There's Allwood. Past the part of the circuit at which his gearbox, which we saw, Matt Luff's gearbox or engine blow in race 1. Well, that was the part of the circuit where Allwood's first seemed to run into those gearbox issues when he slowed into Britain's, allowing John Langridge, as it was at the time, through to the race lead. Langridge does seem to struggle out of that Britain chicane. I don't know what it is. We lost the lead to Wiggin in race 1 coming out of Britain's, and he's had a few more moments since where he's had to really defend into his lops, and no one else is really having to do that. So Langridge just doesn't seem to be getting off that chicane, and I'm sure it's nothing that he's doing. It may just be car setup. There's relatively little you can do to these cars. Tyre pressures will have a bearing on whether you're quick at the start or the end of the race, and really the only other things you can do is sort of tweaking the suspension, and maybe that his suspension is either a little too stiff, so it's bouncing over the curbs too much, or a little too soft, so it's just sort of lazily sliding around at the rear. Steve Foden at the time, I think it was, that got a wheel in the dirt coming out of Drid. Look at this big train. They're just not splitting up. They're about half the field here almost. It's getting on for a dozen or so cars in a big long line. As they come across the line though, Ben Short is the leader. Langridge second, Wiggin third, Blackwell Chambers fourth, then Bessel fifth, then Foden, Allwood, Brewer, Pollard, Greatrex and Martin Tolley all in this group. That takes you back outside the top 10 to, I believe that's about 11th or 12th place. And then the gap back to the next group, which is probably the remaining 13 or 14 cars in the race. In this case they go again. No retirements yet in this one either, so as though the bottom 5 finishers will be the 5 that get relegated. In fact, just as I said that this group wasn't separating, all of a sudden Joe Wiggin and John Langridge have got away from Will Blackwell Chambers, but that might change if they start to fight each other. They were there. Langridge had to really make a desperate move to defend there into Shell. Ooh, sideways out of the corner as well. So it's Short, Langridge and Wiggin the top 3 now. Has that allowed Blackwell Chambers to close back in? Not particularly, but then the real gap actually is from Blackwell Chambers back to Bessel, so something's happened there to Adam Bessel. He's just had a moment somewhere, lost his momentum. He's in danger now of losing the toe from the cars in front. But as is so often the case with these races, as soon as a gap starts to open up between 2 cars, very quickly seems to shrink again as the battles intensify. There's Martin Tolley trying to find a way past Jason Greatrex, and Jason, the number 33 car, still leading the Masters Championship by a fairly healthy margin actually. Over this man actually, Martin Tolley. Martin is second in the Masters Championship. One of the most experienced drivers in the MX-5 Championship history. He did, I think I'm right in saying, more races than anybody else in the championship, and he's won a few of them. Oh, this is getting interesting. Steve Foden there trying to get 4th place away from Adam Bessel, and this is because Steve and Ollie Allwood, who I think might actually be the beneficiary out of all of this, Allwood goes inside of Foden, Jack Brewer will try and follow him through as well, but that's because they can all see the top 4 getting away, and suddenly there's more of a sense of urgency to get past Adam Bessel, who they perceive as being the cork in the bottle. It's hard to do that without then leaving yourself vulnerable to attack from the cars behind. This is though allowing the top 4 to pull away. Strips there for Joe Wiggin, then you've got Bessel 5th, 6th Allwood now, 7th for Brewer, so they did all get past, Steve Foden in the end. Steve will be a bit frustrated with that, no doubt, but he knows the score, because that's just how it works. If you go out of line, particularly to the outside into Lodge Corner, and there's a car behind you, they're immediately going to try and go to the inside of you and fill that gap. It's just what happened. Blackwell Chambers then, although he's escaping now from that battling going on behind him, isn't really able to make many inroads into the top 3, despite the fact that certainly John Langridge seems to be defending quite busily, although actually that defensive move that Langridge made into Shell did seem to hold him and Joe Wiggin up enough to allow Blackwell Chambers there, the blue, white and green car, to close in, and behind Allwood. So Allwood's now 4th, he's found a way past Adam Bessel, didn't see how that happened. there you can see Allwood in fourth, trying to go after them, fifth, sorry, now trying to go after them. Sixth for Bessel, but Jack Moody now, the yellow and red car, pulls alongside him. We'll focus on the leaders though for now as they turn into the Hizzy chicane. Joe Wiggin then, the number 1 car with, no, number 41 car, sorry, Black Chambers, number 1, behind him, who, if things finished as they are now, would lose another, well, 6 points to Langridge, because Langridge again has the fastest lap at the moment, so Langridge once more is on for 100 points, with Blackwell Chambers in 4th position again, on for 94, so that would take the gap out to 10 points between the two of them. That's about the biggest advantage that anyone's had all year, and it's Langridge that looks like he might have it. Wiggin could do with getting ahead of Langridge here as well if he can. Out of Lodge, through the dip, over Deer Leap, right against the barrier past that Marshall's post. That must be a spectacular view for the Marshals on that particular part of the circuit as the cars drive underneath them at high speed into Old Hall. A deceptively quick right-hander through the dip, out the other side, sort of spits you out onto the avenue. That's why it's so easy to run wide there, because the car goes light over that little hump in the road. Down the hill into Cascades. Joe Wiggin sizing up John Langridge, seeing where the opportunity might come. He's had a better exit from Cascades there, down the Lakeside Straight, which is straight-ish. There's a bit of a kink to the right, but it's very, very undulating, very bumpy indeed. The worst of the bumps are just as you're preparing to turn into Island Bend, which is virtually flat out there, that left-hander. Jack Brewer there, the yellow car, trying to have a go at Adam Bessel as they turn through Shell now, that tricky, probably second gear right-hander. Well, Blackwell Chambers has dropped back all of a sudden, hasn't he? Look, I just noticed up the road, he was right with the top 3 when we last saw him, but now look, the top 3 have really escaped by a couple of seconds now, so has Blackwell Chambers got a problem? Has he just had a mistake that we didn't spot? Whatever it is, that's cost him any chance of a podium, surely, and now Ollie Allwood is breathing down his neck. And of course, Will does not have a slipstream now from the cars in front, so this might make Allwood's job a little bit easier. He's also not under any pressure from Adam Bessel, because Bessel is still busily defending his 6th position from Jack Moody and everybody else, really. Foden flicks it into Knickerbrook corner. Back up Clay Hill again underneath the bridge. Up against that curb on the left, but try not to hit it because that will scrub speed off. It's become the done thing, though, at the moment to use that curb going past the water tower. That's sort of very easy place to lose control of the car, though, actually, so that's brave to do that. Front of the field though, Ben Short now for the first time in a while, having to definitely move to cover this race lead then. John Langridge is starting to think that maybe the best form of defence from Joe Wiggin will be to attack Ben Short, try and get a car between them. Through we go then, to another lap. Look at the battling going on behind. Look, that's Ollie Allwood trying to get past Will Blackwell Chambers into Old Hall corner. They're going to be side by side, but Blackwell Chambers has got the inside line. Allwood will try to tee up the better exit though. Has he done it? Not quite really. They stay in the same positions then, down into Cascades. Come the leading 3. You don't know where to look now, do you? And again, a bit like race 1, which was fairly tense, but not too eventful for the first 2/3 of the race. Now that we're getting into the final few laps, the intensity really starting to pick up. Back up with Martin Tolley now. So he gets onto the tail of Matt Pollard, that is, in front of us. Matt defends into Ireland. That's not a call. He wants to be taking a defensive line through, but Tolley can't quite get right round the outside. Thinks about going up the inside, though, into Shell. So many different lines being taken, though. You can see, though, from on board here with Tolley, just how intense this racing is. This is why the drivers really love racing in this championship. You never get a dull moment, really. Even when you're not sort of running side by side and trading positions by the corner, you're so close to each other. Oh, and that's a big moment for Tolley as he saved it just about. We really got to see his hands at work there. That was a big moment for Martin Tolley and very nearly threw it all away. Joe Wiggin here trying to get past John Langridge and still can't quite do it, but well, if ever anything proved just how intense the racing can be, that was it. Nose to tail stuff and a big moment over the curb for Martin Tolley. Easy to do though, because you're a bit unsighted when you're running right behind somebody else. So another scary moment. Had a few of those, haven't we? Saw that one in race 1, or a few drivers in race 1 actually running wide at this corner, Druids, which is not a place you want to be grass tracking. Under the bridge again then, so Short looking a bit more in control now. He's not got a huge cushion over Langridge, but it's Langridge that now seems to be the one that's driving more defensively again, as he realises that he needs to try and hold on to this second place. Every point that he can get will be crucial, and if he goes for a move for the lead that doesn't work, it could cost him second place and 2 valuable championship points. Onto the final lap of the race we go then. The big question, I think, really is whether Blackwell Chambers can hang on to 4th place, because look at the potential here for him to lose not just 1 spot, but 2 or 3, because you have to imagine that if Allwood goes past him, that could drag Bessel and Moody through. Steve Foden was nearly off the road completely going through Oulton Park Corner, but saved it. Clive Chisnell now a bit further back as he heads through Lodge Corner. Idea of just what the battling's like right at the back of the field. Trying to pull alongside Sam Attard by the looks of it, who in turn is side by side with someone else in front of us. Across the line they go. Into the first corner, and the other car they're racing with is Charlie Rawls, is it? Is that 26? Yes, it is. Charlie Rawls, who was promoted from the B grid after race number 1, and he's trying, this is the fight I think, not to be relegated. So as far as I can work out, Rawls at the moment is in 21st, and from 22nd backwards will be relegated onto the B grid. So whoever finishes at the front of this train will be the only one potentially that survives to race in race 3A later on this afternoon. So that's the significance of this battle. This is something you don't get to appreciate necessarily all the time unless you're actually watching these races trackside, but now we focus once again on the race leaders, Short, Langridge and Wiggin, as close as ever they have been through Hislops. And into Knickerbrook Corner, the Mack Attack racing car of Joe Wiggin, being helped and supported as ever by his stepfather Declan McDonnell this weekend, both of them former BMW Compact Cup race winners. Joe Wiggin trying now to add another MX-5 Championship race victory to his tally. It's unlikely to happen, you'd imagine, but he's going to give it his best shot out of Druids. Down to Lodge Corner, 1 more corner to go. He might not be able to win the race, but he could still take second place away from John Langridge. I don't think John's close enough to do anything about Ben Short. Wiggin from the outside to the inside, but he's not late enough on the brakes. If he'd braked any later, I think he'd have gone straight into the side of John Langridge. So as they come out of Lodge Corner towards the checkered flag, Ben Short is going to come through to take his 3rd race victory of the season, his 1st since March at the first round at Brands Hatch. A brilliant return to the top step for Short. Langridge 2nd, Wiggin is 3rd, and Blackwell Chambers hangs on to 4th position, but as I said, will now be 10 points behind John Langridge in the championship. So Short wins it, Langridge 2nd, Wiggin 3rd, and Blackwell Chambers 4th, and Ollie Allwood 5th, then Adam Bessel, Jack Brewer, Steve Foden, Matt Pollard, and Martin Tolley rounding out the top 10. Confirmation there that Langridge got the fastest lap as well. Raytrex 11th, Bailey 12th, then Moody, Mugglestone, and Ash Miller again inside the top 15 or so. Relegated to the B race will be Clive Chisnell, Bryn Griffiths, Alan Hawkins, Adrian Burge and Ollie Jenkins, with no non-finishers from that one.
So you seem to take the lead quite early there. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, well, the plan was to take the lead off the start because race 1 went really quite well. I didn't quite make it, but I think I was leading by the end of the first lap. To be fair to John and Joe, they were really travelling on like that. I was really concentrating, trying to have every little bit here and there that I could on the curbing and stuff. So yeah, that was sort of all of it. I thought I didn't think I was going to get away with it, and then I saw the last lap board, and yeah, then just talked myself around 1 more lap to the end, really.
I think with this heat you were probably hoping for a nice easy walk away, but they didn't give you it.
No, I mean I'm trying to deal with the heat a bit more for the historic racing. So I'm trying to overheat myself as often as possible and get used to it. So it's a good training weekend for that. But race 3, it'd be nice if we could have a bit more excitement, a bit more overtaking and stuff. But I don't know. These guys are thinking about championship points, so we'll have to see if they're going to play sensible or just go out for fun.
So you're playing kind of the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, just come to Oulton because I love the track. I think it's mega. Haven't raced my Mark 1 here for a couple of years now, so we had a quiet weekend at work, so I thought we'd just come and have a bit of a go round. So to take a win when we're just here for funs and giggles is absolutely fantastic. Really happy about it.
Excellent. Well, enjoy your win and thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
So that was quite a race for you. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, cracking race, wasn't it? I hope it was a good one for the fans to enjoy. I got away all right, and it's tough to start on the outside of the front row round here, so I slipped into, I think it was 3rd or 4th, and then just chipped away and had a bit of fun out there. The Blink car was so good to drive that I think we've perhaps got a chance later on, and looking forward to it.
So you and Joe were giving Ben a bit of a hard time most of the race.
It's really hard being second in a group of 3 because you try to attack but then you've got to defend at the same time. So, you know, but like you said, we put on a good show and got sponsors here today, Cambridge FD, so I'm really pleased.
Excellent. So you're looking forward to race 3?
Yeah, let's do it.
So that was a bit of an exciting start of the race for you. Do you want to talk us through?
Yeah, we made a great start again, but Ben's a bit leery and he decided to throw out the inside, and if we hadn't have backed out, then he probably would have wiped us out. So it's just the way he drives, and unfortunately, you know, if I hadn't have done it, we would have probably not finished the race. But thanks to Eco Trailer, CN Science, Tucker Motorsport, Mum and Deck and family, another podium, 5th one in a row now, I think, and no pressure now for the last race. We're going to go for it now. Yeah,
so Ben's kind of broke your winning streak, hasn't he?
Yeah. Thanks for that. No, you know, his car's it's frustrating because I think that if we'd have been nearer it, if I didn't have John in the way, I think we could have had them both. But this track, unfortunately, is very hard to overtake, and they've just got a bit more oomph than us, and they're just able to do enough to stop me from throwing out the inside. So I'm not going to do anything stupid in race 2. I want to get into race 3, and now we've done that, I don't really care. We're just going to have it.
You're going to send it up the inside and hope for the best?
Yeah, I'm going to give them the option.
Right, thanks very much.
Cheers.